All right. So, what's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel, tuning into this podcast. My name's Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, here with my beautiful wife. Say hi, boo.
Hello, everyone. Good morning from Budapest.
Good morning from Budapest, Hungary. And today we are doing episode 13 of our movie review series with Irreversible, the Gaspar Noé film from 2002. Thriller, horror, interesting storyline, a cult classic to some. Some other people love this movie. Some people hate this movie. Really want to talk about it. I think it was a good suggestion from my fans on my YouTube channel. Thank you for suggesting this movie. I had not seen it before. Actually, had you seen this one before?
No, I haven't. And this is like our second Gaspar Noé movie. And yeah, I don't know. I like him. I like his, direction.
Yeah. Go check out the review we did for Climax. That was a very interesting movie. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I think this movie was a bit better than Climax.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Just a bit better. It's more
Yeah.
tight, more concise. When we watched it last night, I could say after it was over, I had a mix of emotions. At the beginning of the movie, I kind of felt like, all right, it's interesting how he's telling the story, but is the story actually interesting? But the way it ends, I really liked how it ended, and sort of the big theme of the movie, because the screen flashes like what time destroys everything, and that's sort of also how the movie began with that conversation about time. And yeah, overall, I enjoyed watching it. What did you feel after it was over?
Yeah, I enjoyed watching it too. It's definitely like, it's not the scariest movie, but it definitely does a good job of creating that tension and anxiety, specifically like in the beginning and also like in the R scene.
Mhm.
And yeah, like I was like very, moved by the movie overall.
Yeah, I think a great movie has moments that you definitely remember. And there are scenes in this movie that you will definitely not forget because of how
Yeah,
graphic it is and how raw and real it is.
definitely, definitely. Like it scarred me for life.
So I guess we'll just jump into it because there's a lot to unpack in this movie. So the movie is a story told in reverse, which makes me think, oh, Gaspar Noé is a Nas fan because Nas has a famous song where he tells a story literally in reverse, like the lyrics are backwards in the story. So once again, hip hop is the greatest art form. No, I'm joking. But the movie starts with the camera angles. I guess we have to talk about the camera angles because
Yeah.
the camera is the wildest thing in the movie. It makes you feel very dizzy at times. How did you feel about the camera angles and how it starts?
Yeah, it's like definitely in the beginning you're like, what is going on? Like, what is this like weird angle? What are these colors? He usually like just like Climax. He uses a lot of red again,
Hmm.
and I guess that symbolizes like something brutal happened or somebody died or whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah, like right from the beginning you feel like very like anxious. Honestly,
Yeah.
like when I saw like those scenes, I was like, oh, this is gonna be scary. Like I'm feeling like something,
Right, right, right.
and yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
that's how it makes me feel. And I think it's also kind of like his signature maybe
mhm.
because he had like weird angles in Climax as well. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, and I appreciate the direction of a movie or the cinematography of a movie where they're making you look at it different ways because the camera is our window into the story that the writer or the director is trying to tell. So when you make the camera do interesting things or have interesting angles, you're making us look at the story in different ways. So I appreciate that. But it is sort of hard to watch at times just because of
yeah,
the dizzying angle. So the movie opens with actually the credits playing in reverse very fast because at the end of the movie there are no credits. So that sort of brings it all together. It makes you really feel like you're watching a movie backwards, which is an interesting feeling. And the movie opens with these two guys sitting in like some dilapidated house, like an old man who's had his life destroyed or something like that. And he says at the beginning, "Let me tell you something," or "You know what? Time destroys everything." He's sitting next to some other guy on a bed, and they look very, like life has had a hard time on them. And we find out that the fat old man spent many years in jail because he, slept with his own daughter. And the other guy has like a wooden leg, and you could tell like they've been through some stuff. And the fat guy says, "I can't stop thinking about it, and I can't get over it." And he has nothing left in his life, no money, no friends, nothing like that. And the other guy's just listening to him. What did you think of that opening scene and that conversation right there?
I don't know. It just made me feel like, yeah, kind of sad for them, but also disgusted, obviously, because of what the guy did. And yeah, like opening the scene with like a story of sexual abuse was
Hmm.
kind of like I was like, oh God, like is this going to be about like I don't should we say the R word? I guess we can.
No, not yet.
Okay,
We're gonna drop the R word
like
when we have to talk about it in this
okay,
video.
I'll just say this, like in my head, I was like, if this is foreshadowing, like I'm not gonna like this.
Right. Right, right.
What did you
That,
think?
that part of the movie really doesn't have a lot to do with the story. Literally, you can tell this whole story without that scene. But I thought it was interesting to show two people who had their lives destroyed because of sexual depravity. I could assume, like this guy, spent time in jail, didn't get to see his daughter, and has lost everything because of his sexual depravity. And I feel like this might be my controversial opinion. I feel like Gaspar Noé secretly is a fascist director or a director who really dislikes gay people because every time he has a movie with gay people in it or gay characters, he makes them out to be the worst. He makes them out to be very horrible. Or when they do, or people who have like weird sexual fetishes or stuff like that. He always finds a way to make them look really bad in the movie. Am I tripping? Am I tripping?
Hmm. I mean, I don't know. It might be true. Like, yeah, there is like a lot of sort of like the all of the LGBTQ people in this movie are kind of shown like characters from hell.
Right.
You know, they're like, you know, they're poor, they're abused, or they're abusing something, or I
Mhm.
don't know, they're just all like kind of portrayed as these twisted people.
Right, right. And I'm not saying like incest is a good thing, or I'm not saying that at all, because of course a man who takes his own daughter needs to be condemned and, you know, probably sent to hell. But I'm wondering why Gaspar Noé always makes somewhat the villains in his movie people that do weird sexual stuff, or just people who are a bit different, and he paints them
Hmm.
in that light. I don't know, but
I mean, it's an interesting topic to explore. So maybe like he's just interested in the nature of those people, I guess,
right, right.
and like, you know, what could make a man, you know, do something like that to his daughter. But I think this scene like is connected to the whole movie, and I'll talk about it when that certain scene comes.
All right, so let's jump ahead. So the two guys are talking to each other in this, rundown house, and then they hear a bunch of noise outside. And so the man with the wooden leg says, "What's that?" And the fat man, who is the incester, whatever, he says, "Oh, that's just the f words at the rectum." And he says, "What's the rectum?" And the rectum is like the gay club that's downstairs. And there's this. Then the camera jumps out of that room and goes down to this gay club, and then we see two men being pulled out of the rectum. One guy is in a stretcher, being put in a ambulance because he looks badly beat up, and another guy is being like arrested, being taken by the police. And the people who are working at the rectum are like, yelling at them like, "We hope you go to jail, you sissies, you punks. We hope you get R-worded in jail and get AIDS and stuff like that." It was very graphic, like just the insults. I was like, "Oh my god, what these guys do? What did they do to deserve this?" And they look really messed up. And then the movie goes back again, okay? And there's like a long sequence of this camera, doing wild stuff as it enters into the rectum. Enters the rectum.
Wow.
The camera enters the rectum, meaning the club. It goes into the rectum, and there's like at least, I would say that was a 3 minute or 4 minute scene of just wild camera angles going into this dark BDSM gay club, and we catch glimpses of all the depraved sex acts they're doing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, once again, that camera angle kind of threw me off. But then we see the two main characters are trying to enter the club, and their names are Marcus and Pierre. Marcus and Pierre are two homies, and they are very, very mad trying to enter this gay club, and they're screaming for this person named Latenia. And what did you think of that? Like when they made it to the club, or when we're introduced to these two guys trying to enter into the club? Because I first thought that they were trying to buy drugs, or they were trying to find somebody. I didn't know what was happening at first. But what did you think of that scene?
Yeah, like definitely the transition was a bit like off-putting because you go through that like sort of, I don't know, 5 minutes weird camera angle in the beginning, and you're like, oh god, like it's coming and it's weird, it's very like loud, there's like techno music playing, and I just thought like, why Paris got to be like this? But yeah, I don't know, like it was just, I wasn't expecting like a BDSM gay club, and then I saw it and I'm like, okay, whoa. And then this guy, I think from the beginning, sort of like the first couple of lines, you can understand like he's searching for somebody.
Hmm.
I didn't know if he was like trying to help, like find that person because the person he was trying to find was his friend.
Hmm.
I didn't know if he was like gay or straight. Like I didn't know what he was searching for, but I
Hmm.
understood like he was searching for something.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know if that's like a good depiction of real clubs in Paris
Hmm.
like that, or if it was kind of like overdone. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. What did you think?
Man, we definitely know why Paris smells that way. If there's all those BDSM clubs underground, deep in the catacombs, they're jumping in and out of the rectum. Oh my God.
Wow, gross.
Very gross. But at the beginning, I didn't know. Maybe we thought that Latenia was like the arch nemesis or the villain because Pierre is telling Marcus, "No, don't find him. He'll kill you. Don't do it, Marcus. Let's go. Let's go. Let's find someone else," and stuff like that. And Marcus is on one. He's turned. So he's running all through the gay club, like smacking people up and down, yelling at people, "Latenia, Latenia." And I get the name. The name Latenia in French means tapeworm or like a stomach worm or something like that, like a virus in the stomach. So his
Mm.
name is literally like sort of evil. And basically, Marcus makes it all the way down into the depths of the gay club. He's going down, down, down deeper into the underground. And he meets some guy who has his legs up in the air, begging for somebody to fist him.
It's so funny when you look at Google and the cast members.
Yeah.
There's a member called Fistman.
Imagine that's your IMDb credits. Like, I was Fist Man in Reversible.
That's funny.
So he meets the Fist Man, and there's a big supervillain fight. It's bigger than the Marvel MCU. It's like Thor versus Captain America. So Fist Man and Marcus get into a fight because Fist Man just wants to get fisted, and Marcus is like, "Show me Latenia." And so he breaks a bottle and puts it in his face and stuff like that. And then it causes a big commotion. Eventually, Marcus runs into a guy, and he says, like, "Are you Latenia?" And the guy gets like confrontational with him, and Marcus and him get into a fight, and the man breaks his arm, like literally, it's kind of graphic. He puts his knee on his elbow and just cracks that thing in half with a
Yeah.
twig. Oh God! And then he pulls down Marcus's pants and tries to take his booty. He tries to pick his goods. He tries to run all up in his rectum.
Gross.
And then out of nowhere, Pierre comes, saves the day, grabs a fire extinguisher, and starts whooping on Latenia, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, but bust his face in, and we see his face just get caved in. What did
Yeah,
you think
like
of
a
that
good
scene?
2 minute of like just face bashing
Yeah,
happened
two
there.
minutes face bashing, face bashing.
And
So,
like,
yeah.
the camera doesn't blur it. We like can't see his face slowly like, get smashed basically. And yeah, like definitely the arm breaking scene was like not predictable because I'm thinking they're gonna fight, but then like out of nowhere his arm is like backwards and breaking. That I was we were definitely like, oh, what just happened? And
Right.
then yeah, it goes on to an even more brutal scene of like just face bashing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was definitely like hard to watch for me.
Right, right. Now, because we don't know the characters or like their motivations or why it's happening, the murder of Latenia at the beginning doesn't have any gratification. In fact, it just creates mystery. Because like if this movie was told from the ending to the beginning, you would feel some sort of like victory or gratification knowing what we know after watching it. But at the beginning, when that murder happens, you're like, what was the point of that? What is he trying to say? How should I feel about this? Are the guys who killed him the villains? Is the villain actually dead? So it just created mystery for me when I was first seeing it on the screen.
Yeah,
And it was one of the more graphic murders I've seen on camera. Definitely, I think that's
yeah.
definitely like top five murders I've seen on camera.
Yeah, definitely was very graphic and brutal, and it makes you like just front your face.
Hmm.
And yeah, at this point in the movie, I didn't know it was like reversed, and I
Hmm.
think I understood after this scene.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
So
because
at the
we
same time, you're like, okay, like is this movie starting off this way? Like you don't really know this is the ending. I
hmm
think.
exactly. And yeah, we went into this movie cold. We didn't read the summary or the plot or anything like that. We just turned it on and just was abused for a good hour and a half. But I wanted to ask you, why do you think all the other people in the rectum were just looking at Latenia while he was being beat up? Why? Because while that's happening, the rest of the people just look. Nobody tries to break it up. Nobody tries to do anything about it. You know.
I mean, when the camera shows the people who are watching the thing, there was like I felt that they were kind of aroused by it,
Hmm.
and being like a BDSM club, and probably like some of the people are sadistic or masochistic. So maybe like I was thinking, what I felt was that they were aroused, sort of,
Hmm.
seeing that scene.
Hmm.
Obviously, like maybe yeah, some of them were terrified, disgust, whatever.
Hmm.
But the people that they show, like there was like a smirk on one of the guy's face, so that's what I felt.
Right, right. Yeah, I think they were definitely aroused. I think maybe, possibly, who knows, Tenia could have been a pariah in the community. Maybe nobody in the rectum really liked him. Like whenever Latenia entered the room, like all the energy just drained. He was that person at the office that everybody's like, okay, I guess coffee break is over. Whenever he comes on break, I don't know. Maybe nobody really liked Latenia in the entire movie,
Maybe, maybe.
and they were just waiting. They were like, oh, thank God, somebody finally did
Wow.
it.
I mean, he is a horrible person.
He is a horrible person, definitely. But I think also, once again, I think Gaspar Noah is trying to say, like, the gay community is so depraved that they'll even watch a murder happen and they'll be sexually aroused by it. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
But let's.
I have some things to say about that. So yeah, I'll get to that during certain scenes.
Okay, sorry, sorry. Well, let's not
No, it's
spend too much
okay.
time on this. So the movie goes even further in reverse, and we have Marcus and Pierre, the two homies, like running through the city, trying to chase people to take them to the rectum, right?
They're in the
uh,
car.
yeah, they're in a car, they're in a taxi, and Marcus gets out of the car and runs into this like random cafe, and it's like kicking tables and yelling at people. Take me to the rectum, take me to the gay club. Where's the car? Where's the club with the men's? And people are just aghast. They're like, who is this angry gay man? Just so, and yeah. Pierre tries to like drive away in like this taxi, like they're driving a taxi car, and Marcus is like, "Don't you drive away!" And he like smashes the window and like tells him to get out. And they find somebody who like tells them where the rectum is and stuff like that. And then the movie goes even further backwards in the story, and we see Marcus and Pierre, hanging with these other two big guys, these big like Romani-looking dudes, on the host stroll in some street in Paris. I presume this movie is in Paris, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's some French city. They don't say exactly, but let's presume it's Paris. They're like on the street with a bunch of like pros working, and they're yelling at people. Do you know Latenia, or do you know? No, they were looking for a person named Jose, like somebody named Gutierrez or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, they're looking for like some Spanish named person, and the pros are saying we don't know him, we don't know him. Hurry up and buy.
I think before that there was a taxi scene. No.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Before that, we find out how they got the taxi. Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. There's like one thing I want to talk about before going to that because when Marcus enters this cafe, there's like maybe like a drag queen or a trans person there,
Hmm.
and he asks like, "Aren't you like gay? Can you tell me like where this gay club is, like called Rectum?" And then the trans person is like, "I'm not gay." And yeah, I don't know if that was hinting that at that time, like trans people specifically weren't accepted,
Hmm.
or I don't know if that was hinting to something like that. I don't know. What do you think of that one?
Um, I'm not sure exactly about
Or
that.
maybe it's not that important in the
No, no,
story.
it is important because throughout like the back scene of the movie, like when it continues to go in reverse, we find out quickly that Marcus is definitely not gay, or at least he's a very angry in the closet man, because he is saying some of the most homophobic slurs, like yelling at people, calling them the F words. He even turns out to be kind of racist and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and he's threatening a lot of like gay people that he sees all throughout the movie. And so I think we're wondering, why is this man like this? And of course, if he is like this, we're sort of not on his side. But what has made him so angry or so turned up where he is acting this way? And we don't know why he is that way
Yeah.
at the first like 40 minutes of the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my
Um,
that's my comment on that. Like I think he called that man like a little sissy or F word or something like that, and
yeah.
then kept it moving.
Okay, so yeah, after that, the scene is we see them in the taxi, but now they're on like the passenger seat
Yeah.
because and there's like this Asian man driving the cab, and in the back of the car, like Marcus is like just hectic, like he's just like screaming and yelling, telling the taxi driver to take him to Rectum,
Hmm.
and the taxi driver is like, "What is Rectum? Like, I don't know, where is that?" And then Marcus is like, "It's the gay club, like take me to it," and he's yelling like all types of like racial slurs, calling this guy like a rice bowl or something like that,
I
and
shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm problematic.
yeah, like it's just very hectic, and the other guy is like constantly apologizing. He's like, "I'm sorry, like something really bad happened, and we're gonna pay you," and stuff like that. So yeah, we see like this fight, and then like eventually Marcus like just no the taxi driver stops, and Marcus gets out, and then
Hmm.
like beats the taxi driver and sprays him with pepper spray.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then he starts like he basically steals the taxi.
Yeah. Yo, but during that scene, I had so many flashbacks to like times where I was in a taxi, like drunk as hell with me and my homies, and they're like turning up, yelling about something, and like they're in the cab mad, and I just felt that scene like because it was kind of real. We didn't get like racist with the taxi driver, but
Yeah.
I could definitely sympathize with the taxi driver. He's like, "Can you guys shut up? Shut up! I'm trying to drive." I've had so many moments like that, and that was a funny scene, honestly. But yeah, Marcus's racism is like he's like calling this man every Asian slur there is, and you're
Yeah.
like wondering, why is this man like this? Is he just like a terrorist? Is he like on a mission right now? Like, why is Marcus really really going so hard?
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
did
And
you
at
ever
this
have any
point,
moments like that in the cab?
Um, I've definitely had like I don't know. I guess I was kind of always okay like to taxi drivers, but there were times where like we were like a lot of people going out, and then like we had to get home and we didn't have like money for two cabs, and then we were like sort of begging the taxi drivers, "Can you take us all?" And it's like eight people in the back of the taxi, and I'm like breathing to the taxi driver's ear because it's so cramped up in the back. So yeah, like I've definitely kind of made a couple of taxi drivers suffer like that.
Right, right. But yeah, up to this point in the movie, I kind of thought Marcus was like the villain. I didn't know what their motivation was once again. So at that point, I was like, I really didn't like Marcus because of
Yeah.
how he was acting towards people and stuff like that. But what did you think of Marcus and Pierre at that point in the movie?
Yeah, I mean, this is like the points where you realize the story is like going backwards, and
Hmm.
then just like you said, you're wondering like, okay, so what happened? And I was still thinking like Latania is, you know, did something like to their friends. I
Hmm.
didn't know if this was like a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I really wasn't sure. And yeah, I was just wondering like, why is he so hectic, and why is the other guy so calm? Like, why is the other guy so nice or something like that?
Right, right. Well, I think that has to do a little bit more with like the conflict that was simmering a bit between them, maybe.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's hard to tell this story. This is like one of the hardest reviews we've done because it's hard to like we want to say so much, but we got to get through the story. So
Yeah,
let's go then. So I think we go back from the taxi scene and then we go to the scene with the pros on the street. And
yeah,
then they find the person they're looking for, and it turns out the person they're looking for is actually a woman all along because they're screaming a man's name, but one of the pros that they accost and slam up against the wall and trying to get information from turns out to be a transgender, and she shows her little dingling, and then they say, "Tell me where's the Latania? Tell me where's the rectum? Tell me where stuff like that is." And yeah, they put a knife to her face and stuff like that. And I think didn't he kill her? I don't know if he killed her.
no, no, but he had like a knife against her, and he was trying to like he was asking like, where do I find this guy? And the trans person like is saying, his name is Latenia. He's in Rectum and all of that. So yeah, like he was definitely going wild on this like lady
Mhm.
slash man. I don't know. And yeah, like I was like, what? Why is he like hitting her so much?
Yeah.
Why is he going after her?
Right. Right.
Once
Right.
again, like you're questioning what happened.
Right, right. I want to say like at that point, at that scene, I liked the camera because the camera was like, very shaky. It felt like you were like right there. And there are moments where, the scene is very, very tense because of the camera movements and also the background music. Like throughout the movie, there's like this, simmering background music that builds the tension of the scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So, if you're watching this movie and at the beginning you get like dizzy and turned off because of the spinning camera, it gets better like towards the middle and especially towards the end.
yeah,
So I'm gonna say that.
yeah.
So
Definitely, I liked the music because sometimes it was like very annoying and tense, and then at times I think they also played a lot of like classical music as well.
mhm,
So yeah, it was definitely nice music in the
yeah,
background.
I mean every scene could fit with a Beyonce song though.
Okay, we're not doing this today.
Irreversible. Anyway, moving on. Where were we?
I think the next scene is where we see Pierre in the police car.
Mhm.
And here, when I saw the scene, I was thinking, okay, so is this the current time again, or is it still going backwards?
Right,
Because also there was a police scene in the beginning, so I'm like, okay, did it
right,
go back to the beginning? And
right.
yeah, we see like this. We see Pierre super shocked. He's like unable to talk. he looks sad, and yeah, there's this police officer asking like, "Oh, did you know the victim? You were roommates with her.
Hmm.
I mean, you were roommates with the victim. Still, we don't know like if the victim is girl or boy."
Hmm.
So yeah, and he's like barely answering because he's so shocked. And then they give him his ID back. He goes out and he meets Marcus, and Marcus is also like looks very sad and shocked as well.
Hmm.
And then like these two Middle Eastern looking guys approach them, and they're like, "You think police is gonna do something? Like they won't do anything. They'll just put the guy in jail if they find him. We can help you find whoever you're looking for."
Hmm.
And then they talk about like this thing happened in their neighborhood. They're like, "Yeah, there was this girl who was assaulted, and we found the guy, and we this is our neighborhood, and we run the streets." Sort of talk they do.
Hmm.
What did you
Right.
think?
I didn't trust those guys at first when I saw them. When they approached Marcus, I was like, they might be in on it because they're not there towards the end of the movie when he makes it to, or the beginning of the movie when he makes it to the rectum. They sort of like disappeared. And I thought maybe like, why would you care so much about something that happened to me? Of course, it's your neighborhood or whatever, but it seemed like they were kind of shady too, And but then also they said you guys look like you dress well, you look like you have money, so maybe they were also trying to extort them. I didn't know exactly how to feel about those two guys when they approached. What did you think of them?
Yeah, like when they asked like you guys dress well and you can pay us and whatever. I think we sort of understand that Marcus and Pierre are not like criminals or thugs in real life, I guess, because in the beginning of the movie they're beating up, they're calling everyone the F word, they're racist and stuff like that. I mean, mostly Marcus. And you sort of think like, are they like a gang member? Like, what are they doing and stuff? So I feel like here it's kind of hinting, okay, so they're just like sort of middle class normal people probably. And also like I think this is where the first scene is important a little bit, because they say like, these two guys that are kind of untrustable, they say like, "Oh, he's just going to go to jail and then get out a couple of years later. They're going to feed him, they're going to clothe him. He's going to have everything in jail, and the assaulter deserves like worse, basically." And but in the beginning we see this guy who assaulted her daughter, and then he went to jail. And yeah, I don't know, that was like the another option of what would happen if they didn't kill the guilty guy, Latenia.
Yeah, I mean that is a good point because in the beginning we do see two perpetrators of like this type of crime and they're sort of living, and this movie takes place in Europe, so I'm pretty sure a crime like our word you only do like maybe 10 years or something. It's
Yeah.
not like America or even Turkey. How much time would somebody get in Turkey for our word?
I mean, it depends, because in Turkey there's a lot of like, sometimes in some cases there's a lot of blame put in the woman. Like, why was she wearing that? Why was she out at night and stuff? So sometimes they could even get like as low as a couple of years.
Wow, that's crazy and that's unfortunate. I think you told me about like in Turkey, like if somebody gets R worded, like they have the option to like marry the person who did that to them.
Yeah, yeah, and also yeah, it's like very socially condemning. So sometimes some families choose to like keep it silent, and they basically like marry off their daughter and stuff like that. So yeah, it's crazy. It's very like taboo to be sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Like we like women choose this, but it's weird.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, in America, it's totally the opposite. They will throw the book at you for somebody who's really caught doing the R word. But the sad thing is that most assault cases go unreported because people are too scared or people are too, unwilling to say what happened to them
Yeah, I
because it's such
mean,
a stigma.
yeah, because like yeah, once you say it then everybody knows. And I guess because there's so much emphasis on women's sexuality, purity and all that, it might affect why they won't tell and report those cases.
Definitely, and that's a sad thing. This needs to be talked about. So I think this movie actually is like a good message for talking about assault like that, and
Hmm.
letting people know that it's not something that you should just keep inside. We have to like talk about it. But
Definitely, we'll get to that
yeah,
in the scene.
all right. So we go back from that scene when the two big guys approach Marcus and Pierre and say, "We can help you with this" and stuff like that. And the scene now turns to Marcus and Pierre leaving the club, looking hella drunk, and also the two big thug guys who approach them. They're getting like pushed back by police against the wall. And Marcus and Pierre turn to see a woman on a stretcher who is badly, badly beaten, face all bloodied, almost
Mhm.
caved in, like sort of like Latinia's a bit. Like
Yeah.
it's almost that, but she's still alive, we think. And
Mhm.
we're like, okay. No, Marcus and Pierre yell, "Alex, Alex!" Like, and they're like, very afraid for her and sad for her, and like they're distraught and stuff like that. And at that point in the movie, I knew that the movie was committing to going backwards in time because up to that point, I was like, I don't know if they're going to jump to the beginning or the end again. But at that point, I knew, okay, they are committed to going backwards. Like we are literally seeing the whole story happen in reverse. And
Yeah.
what did you think about that scene?
Yeah. Yeah, I think as they're walking out, also somebody says like some prostitute got, killed or, assaulted, sexually assaulted or something like that. So yeah, we know that there's some sort of R word happening here. Um, and yeah, the lady's face is like red and it's like bleeding. And I think like Vincent Cassel did a very good job here. he was crying on the
By the way, he
body.
plays Alex. Everybody. No,
Yeah.
he plays
No,
Marcus.
Marcus, yes.
He plays the main character, Marcus Vincent
Yeah, and
Cassell.
he's yelling like Alex, he's crying on the body, and yeah, like it was sort of like, how can I say this? We see them leaving the club first,
Mhm.
and they're just like, they look like a couple of guys who had a night, and then they're going home. Basically, they had
Mhm.
a couple of drinks and whatnot, and then like suddenly, all of a sudden, we see like Marcus's face change, and then he starts crying because of what happened. So it kind of felt like this could happen to anybody. Um, you know, you just like have one night, and then you go out, and then you see someone you love or care about like hurt like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking, like, okay, so these are just like a bunch of guys, ordinary guys who went out, and then their friend got killed or
Right.
injured very badly and all that stuff. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, at the beginning, you don't know what their relationship is. Is that his sister? Is that his cousin? Is that his girlfriend, wife, daughter? You don't know exactly, right? So we're still a bit confused, but we definitely know now what the main motivation was for Marcus and Pierre to be running through the city like that. And somebody might leave a comment and say, "Oh, you missed the part where they were screaming like somebody got R-worded when they went into the cafe or when they were in the taxi or stuff like that." I kind of forgot about that at that point. To be honest, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I was getting my sip on while I was watching the movie, so I might have forgot those lines. I didn't know what was happening until I saw Alex on the stretcher. Really,
Wow.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep it
yeah.
real.
Me neither. I thought they were talking about Marcus when they said somebody got R-worded.
Oh yeah, I mean at the beginning maybe you could also make that assumption like, is Marcus this turn because somebody took his booty and he really want revenge? Because if
No.
that was the case, I could sympathize too. I'd be like, yo, let's get him.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, yeah, we learned that Marcus's girlfriend something happened to her, and she was R-rated and stuff like that. And because he's yelling like, who are you, sir? Who are you, sir? Like people are asking him, and he's saying like, she was my girl, like it's my girl and stuff. So yeah, but we still don't know what the other guy is there for. I thought at this point, like, I was thinking, okay, is Marcus like hanging out with prostitutes? Is he like a pimp or something like that? I was kind of thinking that because somebody says like, oh, a prostitute got R raped,
Mhm.
R worded.
Yeah, I think that's an important line because yes, she was in an area where there were other working girls. Like when we go back in time, there's a scene when she goes out in the street right before the attack happens to her, and there's like a working girl just hanging out on a pole or something like that. But that line, some pro just got R worded. That's so demeaning and that's so belittling, and I think that goes to show how society like treats R word. Right? They view anybody who gets it as oh, you must have been deserving of it. You must be somebody of a lower class. You must be somebody who who that would happen to because you are a pro. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely like automatically people think it might be someone like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah,
So let's go back in time to the big scene, right? And this
yeah,
movie, I feel like, has several climaxes, several big points. And it's interesting that a movie can make a climax sort of at the beginning and also towards the middle. And I believe this is one of the major scenes in the movie. So we go back in time. Alex is like leaving some hotel or some venue or house where they're having a party. And she walks out into this big, busy French street. There's a girl hanging out on the pole and she's trying to catch a taxi, but she can't catch her taxi, possibly because the taxi driver thinks she is a working girl because she's wearing sort of like a loose fitting dress with like her nipples pointing out and stuff like that. So the girl hanging on the pole says, if you really want to get to where you're going, maybe try the other side and go under the underpass under the street. So in Europe, they have these places where you can walk under the streets. Not like in America. I don't think we have this in America.
yeah,
And yeah, so she goes down into this dark underpass with red lighting because everything scary happens under red light. And as she's walking in this hallway, a man is approaching with what looks like another woman, and then he starts like attacking her and like beating her up badly. Right at the same time that Alex is walking past her, and we realize that the person that is getting beat up is the same transgender who we saw earlier in the movie that Marcus accosted, and also that the guy who beat up the transgender is Latenia, the guy who got killed at the end of the movie. And so they're like,
a little resolution there.
yeah. So then you figure out, okay, now we get it. And so the transgender prostitute, after getting beat up, like runs away, and Latenia and Alex are left in the hallway like alone. And Alex is just like, please, please, like I'm just trying to go. And Latenia like jumps on her and brutally R words her in the rectum. And that scene lasts for a good 3 to 4 minutes. And there's no like cut shots. There's the camera angle is very steady now. There's no twisting around the camera, no interesting ways of flipping the view. It's just what it is, and you see it all. What did you think of that scene?
Yeah, it definitely felt longer. It felt like a 30-minute scene. And I think it definitely was, I don't know, like 10 minutes. That's how I felt.
Mm,
But yeah, it was very hard to watch. And just seeing like that sort of, down tunnel, alleyway, crossway, whatever it is. I always, in Istanbul, in Belgrade, or even here sometimes, but in Budapest, those like down alleyways are filled with like, markets and stuff like that. So you don't feel it as much here. But I sort of remembered, every time I went down to one of those like dark tunnels, and it was sort of scary, and I would like always, walk fast, and yeah, it's sort of creepy. And if you're a woman, you would understand this sort of like scare.
Hmm.
And it definitely reminded me of that. The whole like R scene was very very disturbing, and I think it was done that way intentionally because we as audiences have to sit through the whole thing and kind of like feel the pain and the suffering because it's very disgusting.
Hmm.
And also like in the middle, like we see some blurred silhouette of a person walking to the tunnel, and then he sees what's happening, and then like he goes back out.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't know, maybe that person thought they were having like actual consensual sex or something like that, or
Hmm.
he realized it and just didn't want to get involved or something. We don't know if it's a man, if it's a woman. It
Hmm.
does look like a man a little bit.
Hmm.
So yeah, like the whole stuff was very brutal and very real.
Hmm.
What did you think?
Wow. So I might have skipped something before we talked about the scene. Did we already know it was Monica Bellucci before,
I
or
realized it at the party scene, so
did the
yeah,
party scene become come before that scene or after?
after.
After. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna be absolutely honest with you. I'm gonna be absolutely honest with you. At the beginning, when Latenia and has Alex pinned up against the wall, it was actually kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not probably the only man who thought that because the actress they got to play Alex is Monica Bellucci. So of course she's gonna look fantastic. You get what I'm saying? Not saying that the actual R word scene is hot, but I'm just saying just the beginning, right? And I'm gonna be absolutely real. I'm keeping it absolutely real with you. And I think this is a bigger discussion. So don't point this on me and don't be upset at me by me saying this. But I think that some men might watch this scene and think that while it is brutal what happened to Alex, there are some women who like this to happen to them because some women have said before that they have R word fantasies. And the way cinema works is that we realize what we are watching is all fantasy. While it can depict something in real life, it is showing a fantasy, a story that somebody is trying to tell. And I think some people might watch this and be attracted to what they see, aroused by what they see. And I think this brings up a big question. Should art display something that is so brutal and horrible when it can be interpreted as something that is meant to be uh, as arousing or entertaining, pornographic even, and something that people can enjoy? Because I be on the internet deep, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I saw this scene before because this is like 4chan basic. Like that scene has been gifted up, cropped up, and stuff like that. And it's been put in places where people are consuming pornography. I'm keeping it real with you. So that means that some people might find this arousing if taken out of context or even within the context. Should art display something like this if the message can be lost to people? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Uh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm aware that this might be, arousing to some people. And I don't want to shame like people who get aroused by this, honestly, because
No, you should. You definitely should. I will shame them. Anybody who watches this scene and like busts into it, you're nasty and you're gross.
yeah, please don't do that. But if you're aroused by it, you can't really control, your feeling in that moment, I guess. But yeah, like the reality of the event is like not cool and it's not arousing. And as a woman, it's hard for me to like get aroused by all of this, honestly. And I know that there are some women who might be, but yeah, the reality is not okay, and it's never okay to like obviously have this act in real life without consent or whatever. And oh God.
I know that's a big question. I know I hit you over the head with one. So let's just get this all
No,
out the way. Let's get this
okay.
all out the way because I brought up the topic. And I'm
I was
gonna
gonna
jump it.
answer it, but go ahead.
All right, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna jump ahead in the movie a bit. So, I'm spoilers as we're telling the story. Basically, Pierre used to date Alex, but then Marcus came involved and basically took his girl. And Pierre and Marcus remain friends, but there is some type of like subtle tension. And Pierre feels like Alex left him for kind of like no reason because he thought he was doing everything right, at least in the bedroom, right? And it turns out that Alex didn't come. Alex wasn't coming when she was with Pierre, and that was part of the reason why maybe she left him for Marcus. And they're having a conversation on the subway train. And Alex finally reveals, after Pierre is like badgering her for like a good 13 minutes, she says, sometimes it's more about the man's pleasure. And women gain more pleasure sometimes when the man is pleased. And they know when a man is not feeling it. And that's what makes a woman, somewhat enjoy sex more and enjoy, get closer to climax and stuff like that. And I think, saying that women get pleasure from the man's pleasure, there's nothing more, egocentric or selfish than just taking it from a woman. You get what I'm saying? And, I think that plays into the idea that some men have that women really do like the R word thing. Now, I understand that women say this because they want to be taken by somebody that they know, somebody that they love, that not just some random person. Like, of course not. But I feel like the movie is playing a dangerous game. Once again, Noah, the director, I feel like he's a wild boy because the messages he puts out in the movie are so easily misinterpreted and can be taken so many ways. And yeah, what do you want to say about that? Is about women and R word fantasies. Why do women say this? Why do some women like it? Can you explain that while we're talking about the big R word scene in the
Um,
underclass?
okay, first of all, I don't know. I didn't get the same message from that conversation, to be honest, because I thought Alex said something like, you have to be selfish when you're, doing the act.
And what's more selfish than taking it?
No, but she said, like, she said, when, I feel like the other side is not being pleasured, then I can't do it. So you just have to like be selfish and think about your own pleasure. And that's how you can let go of like, your attention. And, and that's kind of true, you do have to focus on your own like pleasure in order to also give, the other person the pleasure as well. And when it comes to the R word fantasy of woman, I think it's something like rooted, that comes from like years of like sexism and oppression and patriarchy a little bit. It's like sort of like a Stockholm syndrome, I would say, because, we as women as a whole, so we are so used to, being sort of like the
Submissive ones.
submissive ones, abused ones, throughout the history, like, everything like we see in movies and stuff like that. Most of the time, yes, like now it's rising, feminism is rising and all that stuff. But for hundreds of years, millions of years, we have been sort of like second character to men and always like abused by men and controlled by men. So I feel like it's sort of like a Stockholm syndrome, to be honest. And yeah, and I feel like most people don't realize that, and that's why they sort of like shame that idea. And that's why I said I didn't want to shame that, because maybe I feel like this is where it's coming from.
I just feel like putting that line in for Alex in the movie was just wildly dangerous and also somewhat irresponsible, because when she says that, it makes you think about or look at the R word scene differently. When she's saying that you just have to let go as a man and be totally selfish. Latenia was totally selfish with her and, took her and stuff like that. And this is the most dangerous thing I've ever said on my YouTube channel. And I feel bad saying this, but I have to entertain this idea. If you've ever had sex, you know that sometimes women moan and groan in a way that sometimes sounds like it's pleasure mixed a little bit with pain. And if you're watching the scene with Alex getting R word and she's moaning in a way that sometimes, if you've really been slanging peen, you've heard moans like that. And sometimes women like to be choked, they like to have their mouth gagged and stuff like that. I'm just keeping it absolutely real. I am not excusing the R word scene. I'm not saying that Latenio was right or that Alex enjoyed it, but I just feel like the movie, because of certain parts of the dialogue and how it is shot in a way, it makes me feel like this was meant to be left open to interpretation as something that was enjoyed, minus the beating at the end, minus the beating that Alex got from Latenia at the end. AKDI, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm saying this, but I'm just saying that I'm giving a criticism of the movie because I feel like the R word scene could have been handled differently and make it seem more inexcusable rather than opening it up for it to be, interpreted. It should have been totally unambiguous how evil it was. Do you follow what I'm saying here?
Yeah. I mean, that is one of like the biggest critics of the movie I've seen, also like in Letterbox and stuff like that. And this is the thing, like I feel like men watch this movie and think something else, and then women watch this movie, or at least women who think like me watch this movie and think something else, and sort of like get different emotions out of it, I can say. And this is where society fails to fix like sexism, or also like consequences for our word victims and things like that, because it's still associated with some sort of like male pleasure. So I think this is where society fails us. And things, going back to like your original question, should this be like included in art like this? Um, because at the beginning I was thinking like, yes, because this is the reality of it, and this is like something really, really bad and really disgusting, and this is an unforgivable crime. So as we sit there and have to go through what this woman is going through, I feel like we might be able to understand what it feels like to be in this position, so helpless, something so personal taken away from you, without you giving consent to it. It's like one of the your sexuality is like something very sacred to you, and you only show it to people who you're really close with.
Right.
And something like that, just like being taken away, is so brutal. So in my head I was thinking, yes, it should be shown, but now thinking how some men, and also women, might perceive this as sort of something like pleasure, now I'm questioning that.
Right.
um
And I want to
so I
talk
don't
about
really, I don't know
something.
if I can give an answer.
I
Yeah.
want to talk about something real quick. Do you remember of the name of the movie series that we watched about the girls who get kidnapped and R-worded and then they get revenge and stuff like that? Do you remember the name?
Yeah, I Spit on Your Grave.
I Spit on Your Grave. Yes. So I want to talk about those movies real quick on how they depict R-word and stuff like
By
that.
the way, I remember those movies when I saw the scene when I was watching it.
I, I didn't think about those movies at all, but
Okay.
as I'm making this point, I did remember them. And by the way, we watched those movies before we started the series, and I wanted to say I wish that we did cover them because there's a lot to talk about in those movies. But I want to say in those movies, I Spit on Your Graves 1, 2, and 3, right? They make R-word look absolutely horrible, and it's totally unambiguous that it is how can I say this? Not meant to be sexualized, or you're not supposed to gain any gratification from watching the scene, and it's not up for misinterpretation. But I feel like in Gaspar Noé's movie, the scene is so blatant and it's so still that it can be contextualized as being pornographic. It can be meant to be something that's supposed to cause arousal, if that makes sense. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
that doesn't even include the revenge parts of I Spit on Your Grave, because those theories are about a woman who gets revenge for that happening to her. But even without that, there's nothing in those movies where you watch those scenes and think, oh, that's hot. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. But for me, like those movies are more of a fantasy than real because, in the real world, we don't see like, victims of sexual assault just going at the guys and chopping them and killing them and all that. So for me, it's more of a fantasy. And I just looked like who was the director, and this guy called Meir Zarki, and he's like an Israeli American film director.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I guess like we can see. I was curious if it was a woman because it felt more like a like a woman's perspective a little bit in those movies, and definitely in Irreversible you can see it's sort of like a male perspective. And this is what most of the reviews, I would say, like the feminists in Letterbox were discussing. They were saying like, this is a movie about the R word, but the R word is just like prop in this movie, and it's made and it's put in the movie for men to act on it or something like that, or get revenge for, when in reality most of the consequences are taken by women. Most of the effect is to women, and yet like we don't see that effect, and we see just like men fighting for it.
Right. I mean, the movie is the classic story of the knight trying to save the princess or slay the dragon. That's what the story is. Like, Marcus is Mario, Alex is Princess Peach, and Latenia is Bowser. And so the whole movie, we're trying to save Princess Peach from Bowser. That's a Nintendo reference for you, actually, in case you didn't get it.
Thanks.
But yeah, I do think maybe there is some like, how can I say this, missing parts from, because the movie was written and directed by a man and stuff like that, so he's not going to be able to cover all of those topics. But that's how conflicted I felt about the R word scene in this movie. Now it is a powerful scene, and any sane person would be shocked by that. And I think it still makes you feel bad for Alex, bad for any woman who gets R worded, and it really makes you glad that Latenia got his face bashed in at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if you're going on a date and you hope to get some action at the end of the night, do not watch this movie because it's gonna kill. I mean, it killed my sex drive. So yeah, it's gonna kill something with the within that woman you're watching with.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to get some
Because
poon
yeah,
poon last night, and yep,
wow.
after that, I said, you know what? I feel bad. I can't do it. I can't pull hair. I can't do nothing. I can't smack
Yeah.
booty. I just
But yeah, it's interesting how like different people view this,
right.
and also like it's also interesting how sexuality is shown in later parts of the movie as well.
Right. Before we get off of this thing, I just want to say one last thing.
Hmm.
Women, please stop telling men that y'all have R word fantasies, because I feel like this is a little bit. I'm not blaming women. I'm just saying I feel like it's a little bit y'all's fault, because most men don't have the ability to see nuance and stuff like that. So then guys just go amongst each other and say, "Man, you won't believe it. This girl told me she wish she got R worded. She wants somebody to take it. She told me she wants somebody to
No, no, no,
pretend."
no, 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 no. I'm
No, no,
gonna
no. I'm
stop
just
you
being
there.
real. I'm being real. I'm not
I'm
victim
gonna
blaming.
be
I'm not
real
victim
now.
blaming. I'm just saying
I'm
stop telling guys this.
Oh, I'm gonna be real now with you. Let's not again put the blame on women, because I know this may sound very cliche feminist, but men are perfectly capable of, making the distinction between the R word and sexual pleasure and consensual sex. So men are just not like
What?
stupid animals roaming
Wait,
around,
wait, wait, wait. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Acting.
dictated by, no,
Acting.
no, 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 wait. Can I talk? Because you talked.
Wait, you cut off. After you cut off, we couldn't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Yes. What was the last thing you heard?
My alarm went off, so just start all over again. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but nobody could hear you.
Okay. I was just saying that men are perfectly capable of making the distinction between R word and consensual sex. So there's no point in blaming women here, because you guys are not just some animals roaming around and taking everything that you see. You guys are not that, stupid or not able to, make this type of distinction. So there's like no excuse. Even if a woman tells you that she has those type of fantasies, I think you can still make the distinction between like where does it start and where it ends. Specifically, if y'all are just like so always on pornography and stuff like that. I feel like you guys should know how like women willingly go to that sort of scenario and enjoy it, and then also when women are put in that position unwillingly. So let's not go there and say, this is like because of y'all.
No, no, acting. Let me be clear on what I'm saying here. Some men are smart. Some men can see nuance. Some men can hear a woman say, I have R word fantasies, and know that she only means, I want you to act that out with me, my consensual partner. But then there are other men who just hear that and say, man, this girl crazy. And then they go and spread this message to like other guys. You won't believe how many girls told me that they wish they got R worded and stuff like that. So then this myth spreads amongst our like men community, locker room talk and that sort of stuff. I'm just being real with you. I am not victim blaming here, but I just feel like it would be better for everybody involved, if everybody just stopped making R word fantasy just comments at all. Period. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but specifically after seeing this movie, it's hard for me to be like, a woman don't say this, because once again, I do feel it's sort of like this I don't know how to say this, like accumulation of all of the stuff that went through in history and became like a Stockholm syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of like, yes, everyone should be educated on how this came up and what this can do and what are the effects and how should we act or not and how should we like live our fantasies and vice versa, like all of that. So I think there should be just like education of men and women in this topic and not specifically like just one side, taking on educating men.
Right, right.
If that makes sense. Because yeah, like first of all, if you say that to just like a random ass dude as a woman, like you're also probably young and dumb and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think on that.
Right. All right. And once again, this is not women's fault. It's not a woman's fault. I'm just putting that out there because you know what? The world is crazy now, and people are just really dumb. With like being online, you realize how dumb people are with the stuff they say and the stuff they believe. So I just think it would be better just to nip this in the bud. But once again, it's not women's fault. And honestly, if girls want to tell their significant others, this is their thing, they're into and stuff like that, that's fine and stuff like that. But I'm even being a bit, how can I say, chauvinist here because instead of talking about how our word is so bad, we're over here talking about our word fantasies. Like, and that's how like the male ego sort of like takes over a conversation that should be centered around women. And I'm demonstrating that right
Yeah,
here.
but I
I have
think
to check
also
myself.
the movie is demonstrating that too. So yeah, I mean that was a good conversation to be had, and it's a hard one to be had. So
Right.
yeah, and like the only advice I would give to women is like if you have these sort of fantasies, just be careful who you share them with.
Right.
It's not like you can't share them with, but make sure that person is someone you can trust.
Right. And always keep mace with you, or a stun gun, or at least a little pocket knife. You got
I
to be.
mean, like mace is illegal in Turkey,
Oh,
so yeah.
keep that butter knife with you. Take that kitchen knife, that small one, something.
No, don't keep the butter knife and stuff like that. Educate your men and your boys. That's what we should say. I feel like
But you
because
got to
why do I
protect
have to
yourself
carry?
too.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, then I carry a knife with me, and then someone attacks me and I kill them, and I have to like go to jail or something. Like I don't want to take that sort of responsibility, and also I don't want to have that sort of like anxiousness with me always.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
when I first went to Istanbul for college, I bought like a mace. And I know I said it's illegal, and you probably like wouldn't get in trouble with it if you don't use it, but they will take it away
Mm-hmm.
if you go to a mall and they see it in your bag or something. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I carried it around with me, and it made me uncomfortable carrying that around because it's like a constant reminder of what could happen.
Right. I mean, if I have a daughter, definitely I'm gonna strap her up with all sorts of maces, all sorts of army knives, switch knives, bulletproof vests. She's gonna be walking outside looking like the Terminator. Just ain't nobody gonna take nothing. And then daddy gonna pull like Marcus. Marcus, I'm gonna be Marcus outside. Where's that mother effer? Where's the tapeworm? And we gonna bash faces in. Yeah, we turning up.
Maybe send her to self defense, but I'm not giving my kid a knife.
No, man. No, you gotta do something, man. The world is crazy. But yeah, that was that scene. Should we get off of that?
Oh yeah,
Okay, that was an intense conversation. That was some of the hardest stuff that I ever had to try to verbalize. But I
yeah.
hope
I'm
it,
I'm I'm a bit shaking right now.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I traumatized you, but I really wanted to get that idea out there because I feel like that's an interesting conversation that could be had in this movie. And it's also like the underlying thing that's I feel like people are scared to touch about this movie.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, it's hard for me to talk about it, obviously as a woman, but also like I don't want to shame anyone for having particular fantasies because I do think there are like deep rooted reasons for those things.
Hmm.
Maybe like whether it comes from a family or it's just sort of like a
Biological,
generational, yeah, trauma or whatever. So I don't want to shame anybody, but there are things that are like just, not excusable.
not excusable. We are not excusing this at all in the movie, but it's a conversation I felt like that need to be had. But all right, moving backwards
By
in the
the
movie.
way,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you think this should be in movies or no?
I feel like you can show R word in movies, but not in a way that can be misinterpreted. Now that might be hard. I feel like I Spit on Your Grave does it well. There's another movie that we should watch. I think it's from oh man, somebody there was a director who we made a movie for this year. I mean made a movie review this year, and she also made another movie about, a girl getting revenge after getting R worded. And I think maybe in that movie they show R word not as something glorious. There are other movies that have shown it where it doesn't, make where it can't be confused, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that you can show anything in a movie, but show it in a way that can't be confused.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving backwards in time, we're gonna like fast forward a bit in the story. So we find out that Alex was dating Marcus. We find out it's Monica Bellucci at the party when Marcus first sees her on the dance floor, and we are blinded by her halo. And they have like a flirty back and forth. And Pierre is like there at the party too, but he's sort of not as fun as Marcus. He doesn't drink, doesn't do coke, doesn't smoke or anything like that. This is like a normal party, and this party contrasts with what we saw at the Rectum. It's sort of like what you would see at any typical party, like people dancing, drinking, stuff like that. Real normie stuff, men and women just getting along. And Alex goes upstairs and sees her friend who is pregnant. She grabs her boobs, which was a cool scene. And and yeah, there's just a conversation that she has with her girlfriend about Marcus and Marcus being her new man, and he's sort of like a bore meaning like he's like just wild and out of control. And Marcus comes and talks to her and says like, oh, I'm straight. You don't have to run away from me. And she's like, why are you always like this? Like you can be so gentle, so kind sometimes, but other times you're just erratic and irrational. And she sort of like has, I feel like goes off on him a bit in a way that I didn't feel like was justified because they're at a party. But we find out why she's like that towards more at the end of the movie. So there's more surprises to be had in the movie. But what do you think of like that party scene with Pierre, Alex, Marcus, and their interactions there? You want to jump on that?
Yeah, I think like in that scene, Marcus, we see Marcus kissing like two girls, and he's trying to like get Pierre to, have some, sexual relationships with some girl, I guess. And at this point, I don't know like who really Pierre is because we don't have that context. He seems like Alex's friend, but we don't know like their exact relationship. We don't know at this point that Pierre is her like ex-boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I felt like Marcus is trying to like, get Pierre to get on his groove and stuff. But obviously, now that we know, like Pierre is Alex's ex-boyfriend, maybe he was trying to like get him away from her
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like find him another distraction.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not feeling it. And also, Marcus really seems like a guy who doesn't love Alex truly here in the scene. Like he's just messing around or something, because he's like just, I don't know, touching on women, and he's weird, and yeah, he's not really like respecting her, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so Alex leaves the party, and while she's leaving the party, there is some depravity in this house too, because like she goes into the house, into one of the rooms to get a coat, and like some girl is giving a guy like a BJ while another guy's sitting on the bed just like chilling there, and like there's like subtle hints that even this normal party has some depravity in it too. And yeah, the story continues to go backwards. It continues to go backwards. Alex and Marcus have like a long discussion on the train, and that's where we find out their relationship. Like you said, the Pierre is Alex's ex. They broke up because really, there wasn't any chemistry. Marcus is more of her speed. And yeah, the movie then goes back, I believe, from the train scene. In the train scene, there's like a wild camera again. The wild camera reappears, right?
I mean, it's the camera like turns and do this type of distortion every time we go back in time.
Yeah, like deep back in time, I guess maybe.
Yeah.
And yeah, so now we see
the morning of that day.
Yeah, the morning of that day, or at least like the afternoon or something like that.
Yeah.
So Marcus and Alex are laying in bed, and you were saying while we were watching this movie that Vincent Cassell and Monica Bellucci got married, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they met in this movie.
That's what I was thinking. Like, is this a movie where y'all found chemistry? Because that's a dark place. Like, how do you explain that to the kids?
I mean, yeah, it is pretty dark.
Mommy, show me the first time you met Daddy. Oh, I don't really want to talk about that.
Wow.
But go ahead.
They actually married like in 1999, so they married before this movie. And probably they separated in 2013. So yeah, they were together during this movie before.
Wow. Okay, interesting.
3 years.
I mean, how hard is that to like watch your wife get R-rated on screen?
Yeah, I mean it's acting because yeah, when you have cameras and stuff like that, I would assume it doesn't feel as real.
I would still feel something watching that happen to you on screen.
Yeah, of course.
Damn, I might kill the actor. I'm like, hold up now, we gonna shut this movie down. Where's the director? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
All right, but yeah, basically this is sort of like towards the end of the movie. Alex and Marcus are in bed. They get a phone call. It's Pierre. He leaves a message saying like, "Hey, we're gonna meet up at this party." Marcus says like, "I guess he's mad that I took his girl or something like that," jokingly, but they're still cool and they're still friends. And we see that Alex and Marcus sort of have like a really sensual, hot relationship. It looks like
I thought the line that Alex said there was sort of like nice, because she said like, after Marcus said, "I guess I took away his girl," about Pierre, then Alex says like, "You didn't take away anything because I'm not something that I'm not a substance that you can take.
I'm not property. Yeah.
I'm not property that you can take. I decided that I was going to leave him, and I decide everything because women decide everything at the end." And I thought that was such an interesting line because her end was sort of like something that she didn't decide and she didn't consent to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and it's also this ending scene, I guess, like towards the ending scene with we see Monica Bellucci's like naked almost like the whole of the scene. And it's like, I don't know, 10-minute scene or something like that. And it's also like very erotic and sexual because now we actually see like, sexual relationships with consent, and it's like steamy and all of that. And it's like two people who love each other. And it was interesting she said that because she seems like a generally sexually liberated woman.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of sexuality around her. Mm-hmm. Like every time we see her after the R word scene, like in the train, they're talking about sex. And in this scene also, like there's a lot of sexuality as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, okay, like, I feel like most of the time women who are sexually, free are sort of blamed more or thought it was their fault when they get sexually assaulted. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was an interesting contrast that the director did.
Right. Now, I want to push back against that a bit though, because yeah, she's a free woman and stuff like that, sexually free, but she she didn't deserve what happened to her. I'm not saying that's
Of
what you're saying.
course.
I'm not saying what you're saying. That's what you're saying. But I'm saying once again, people can interpret that as like, oh, before the R word happened, all she was talking about sex. It looks like she was dealing with two guys that she had sex with before. There are people who could twist that in their minds. You get what I'm saying? So I'm just
Yeah.
pointing that out. And the second thing about the scene with Marcus and Alex in bed, they're talking and having banter, but like Marcus is flirting with her is a bit R wordy. Like it's a bit, and I felt a bit bad watching that scene because I know as a man, like how I play with you as my wife, as I flirt with you in the house and stuff like that, smacking booty, grabbing ass, touching you, like, it's all within consent because we're married and we're in this house together, right?
Hmm.
But it was hard to see like how, there were some parts where they were like laying down in bed and he says, I'm gonna do you in the butt. Like he says that, like he gives that line, and that's hard to hear because we just saw the scene. Now he's saying this in the past before it actually happens, of course, and of course he didn't know what happened to her. But I'm just saying it's hard to hear that because he says, I'm gonna do this to you, I'm gonna do that to you, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna stuff like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when I was watching that, that was the hardest part for me because that resonated with me as a man because I know that's how I play with you. And I know that's sort of like how I flirt with you a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I feel like a lot of men do that if you're laying up with your girl, like at the house all day, whatever, y'all naked, y'all doing stuff like that. Guys are sort of like chasing and aggressive and stuff like that. And I'm gonna keep it absolutely real. I felt uncomfortable for Alex during that scene. You get like and stuff like that because I felt like women sometimes go along with men's playing like that because that's what we like and that's
Hmm.
all we know how to do. And so she just had to accept that. Even though I feel like she wanted to have like a serious conversation and she was mentioning stuff like I'm late on my period, I might be pregnant. What will we do if I'm pregnant? And here this guy is just like, I'm gonna do it in your butt. You get what I'm saying? I'm sorry I'm ranting, but that's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
opinion. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, in that scene where they get up and then Marcus takes her to bed again, and she's wearing like this wrap around her waist, and we can see like Marcus is trying to like get it on and trying to arouse her, and she's just there, kind of like curled up and lying and thinking there, and I can see that, and yeah, it's definitely after seeing that R word scene, it's very sort of, I don't know, hard to see those romantic moments as truly romantic.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I want to say I'm sorry to you for all the times.
It's
I
okay, I grab butt too.
no, but I want to say, like, I have a serious question. Like, when guys play like that, with their girls, like girlfriends, wives, whatever, does that ever get uncomfortable for you as a woman, or do you think for women in general, like when men are like that, when we are very grabby, very touchy, very R wordy, and how we banter with women and flirt with women?
I mean, just talking about myself,
Hmm.
most of the time, no, it doesn't get annoying because once again, like as women as a whole, we are kind of used to having that dominant figure as men in our lives, and yeah, like I do like being chased or being desired and all of
Hmm.
those things. But while I like that, I also maybe I like those soft moments a bit more. But not to say like I don't like the slap in the ass or whatever. But yeah, like I think for me, I feel like I guess in our relationship we have that good balance of like romance and then the other stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, for me I don't feel like that, but there were times in like some other relationship where I felt like that.
Hmm. Hmm. I got you. I just wanted to ask that question though, because that scene right there made me feel a bit guilty watching it.
Good.
Watching that made me feel more guilty than the R word thing because I've never taken it like that, and I would never do that. But I definitely play like that with you, so I was like, "Ooh, that's bad." I'm not doing that anymore.
Wow.
But anyway, the movie kind of ends like this. Let's just get to the ending. So Marcus leaves the house because he has to go get drinks for the party later, and Alex is left at home by herself. They have like a gross goodbye kiss through the shower curtain, which was hella nasty. Ugh. And Alex takes a pregnancy test, and I believe she finds out she's pregnant. Definitely,
Yes.
yeah, it's not ambiguous, right? There's no
Yeah.
ambiguity. Yeah, she's pregnant, right?
And we also like during the R word scene, we know that she bled, so you kind
But
of connect the two dots.
no, no, but she bled because he did it in her butt.
I mean, it could be any of them. You
Uh,
don't really know because sometimes that could happen because of distress as well.
Okay, maybe. I mean, you're the woman, so you tell me. But I thought she was bleeding because Latenia did it in her booty. But that's not cool. Either way, she's pregnant. The movie then goes wild camera. The camera goes up, spins around, comes back down. Alex's belly is swollen. Camera goes back up, spins back around, and Alex is now laying in a field with, I believe, other naked women who are breastfeeding.
No,
There was titties out. There were titties out in the very last scene.
no, there was a woman who was sunbathing with her back.
Oh,
Like she was laying on her face and she was sunbathing because Alex was like in this park
yeah.
and there were like kids running around.
I swear, I saw some titties though. So it's France.
No.
It's France. There's titties everywhere.
Okay.
I saw some titties in the last scene. Just
Oh God.
somebody,
Okay.
but people in the comments going to defend me. Anyway, last scene, Alex is laying in the field. I don't know if this is the future or the past. I don't know. I feel like the last scene might be a bit of the future, and I thought maybe that was Alex after all the stuff happened. and her belly's not swollen. Then they jump to another future where she's had her baby and now she's like living her life with her baby. But Marcus is gone, meaning that maybe Marcus is in jail. Maybe Marcus died. Who knows?
I
And
don't know. Was she pregnant? Because her belly wasn't that like, you know, I didn't see a belly.
I saw a belly at least. Like when the before the last scene, before the park scene,
Yeah.
they showed her laying in bed and it looked a bit swollen.
I
But I
mean,
don't know.
she was holding her belly, but I don't know if that was her, like, like she lost her baby and she's just sitting on the bed, and that's how I kind of felt like was happening because yeah,
I feel like she definitely had her baby. She was pregnant, and then maybe my interpretation is that at the end of the movie, she is like in the future. That's my interpretation.
yeah.
Maybe the
Also,
movie. Yeah, go
that's
ahead.
what I think too. But I felt like she's in the future, like as a victim of like sexual assault, and she lost her baby, and she was like in the bed just holding her, tummy,
Hmm.
and yeah, and then in the park she was just like looking at kids and stuff. So
Right.
she looked kind of sad.
Mm,
So I don't know. That's what I got. I thought it was like post, sexual assault.
right. I think maybe she was sad because her baby daddy slash husband boyfriend was gone. You know, Marcus is dead or in jail or something like that, and she's raising a baby by herself. But at least she knows that the baby is not her. Is not Latenia's. It's not Latenia's baby because she knows she was pregnant before. So that's sort of like a happy
Hmm.
ending. But either way, I think the end of the movie, regardless of whether she had the baby or not, whatever, it's still pointing to this idea of that life goes on, life continues, and that sort of stuff. And the last scene of the movie is like time destroys everything. That is put on the screen for everybody to see, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought that was it brought it all home. It tied the movie together because that was said at the beginning, that was said at the end. And when you think about it, this movie is told in a way where time, we all know a tragedy will happen in our lifetime, right? We're all born and then we all die at the end. We know that there will be tragedy in all of our lives. But once again, life goes on. And if we look at our stories backwards, it's actually not that bad. We know that the ending will come. But let's tell our stories actually away from tragedy and move towards just celebrating life. That's sort
Hmm.
of like how I saw the movie. It's actually kind of like inspirational in that way because it takes something so dark and still says that life will find a way. We will continue. We'll be strong. That sort of stuff. That's how I
Yeah.
interpreted it. What did you think?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the actual sort of cliche phrase is "time heals everything,"
Mm,
and yeah, and in this movie, it was the opposite. What things got healed as time went backwards.
mm,
So then in the real world, it would be time destroys everything. I think, and I thought that was like just a smart, showing of the theme, maybe,
mm.
or just some like smart world wordplay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I liked it. And I thought like in the end they have like this 1 minute long flash scene where the screen is like white and black and it's like
Oh, that
weird.
was annoying.
That was very annoying and it hurt my eyes, but I thought it was like going to the beginning of the universe or something. That's how I felt. Like I think this is Big Bang happening on the screen, and he took it like just that far.
Yeah, the movie
Because
was
if you
trying to
think
hurt
about it,
us.
yeah, if you think about it, like everything, from the beginning of the earth, of the humanity, and then to this day, life is destroying everything. Time is destroying everything.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I'll just say I think time destroys everything isn't necessarily negative
Yeah.
because time in this case the movie at the end of time all the bad guys got defeated, right? Latenia dies, the old man who took his daughter's virginity or whatever is living in poverty, right? We don't know if Alex dies or not, but we could assume that maybe she'll live and maybe her and Marcus could have a future together. There is some victory and triumph over evil, so time destroyed the negatives here. It can be interpreted that way, I would say.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it says it like it destroys everything along
Hmm.
with good things and bad things. So yeah.
Right, right. So, yeah, overall, I appreciate this movie. I was really challenged by this movie. I'm conflicted about certain parts of this movie, especially the R word scene and the themes around that. Yeah, it's a classic story of like the man trying to save the girl or get vengeance, and it's just told in a way that's more interesting, a different way of looking at it. It reminds me of like the Kendrick Lamar album "Damn," how you can play that album front and backwards, and it
Hmm.
has a different meaning when you watch it. And that's how I feel about this movie. It's like telling somewhat of a classic story, but
Yeah.
just in a way that makes it more interesting and makes you think about things differently. And
Yeah.
my only complaints about the movie about how it's made is just some of the camera angles and the ending scene with the epilepsy camera, like the epilepsy flashing on the screen. Like I didn't need a seizure after watching this. So yeah,
Okay. So what is your overall score?
mm, I'm gonna say 8.5,
Okay.
8.5. It's good. It's good. I'd say slightly better than Climax.
Hmm.
Slightly better
Okay.
than Climax. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I thought this was a good movie. It's like a very memorable movie. Definitely a lot of themes to talk about, even though, like, yeah, the morals of the movie or the scenes of the movie can be taken to another direction if you're a bit twisted. It still like creates I think a lot of questions and a lot of like discussion. So I do think it's smartly made. I don't really mind like the camera angles and the epilepsy seizures because I do believe there's a reason for those, and it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, a little bit like bored, I guess. And yeah, the only thing for me is maybe it's like it is a male gaze movie, and a little bit of how the female character was portrayed was at times too focused on sexuality, and yeah, that blur between, you know, sexual assault and consensual sex.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm gonna give this an 8.
Mm. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. I sent the invite to the Violator. Violators back in the chat. Welcome. I sent the invite to speak. If you want to share what you thought of this movie, you're more than welcome to speak at any time. You can accept the invite. But actually, until he accepts, could you read maybe one or two letterboxes before we wrap this up?
Sure. So there is a lot of sort of like hate for this movie in Letterboxd. Even though I think the overall like score is high. Yeah, it's 3.8 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And but there are a lot of like, you know, 2 stars, 1 stars. Okay, so here it says, Ash says, another film I didn't want to rate. After the R word, I just sat and cried my eyes out for 5 minutes. I'm exhausted. I'm drained. I feel violated. Literally, the only thing this film has going for it is its unique chronology, and for the most part, it's interestingly shot. What really ruins this film for me is the aftermath of the R word and how it is depicted through the eyes of not the now comatose victim, but her boyfriend and her best friend. Noah, I don't know, frames the story of sexual violence against a woman as a male story, and I honestly am disgusted by it. All Noah is and his characters care about is being called a fag. Um, there's a particular scene in which Pierre tells Marcus he didn't have a quarter of the energy for Alex after she is R-worded, as he does defending himself against homophobic slurs. Alex declaring she's her own person does not work as foreshadowing, it just comes off as cruel. Alex is shown naked repeatedly, her only value coming in the form of her naked body, and when or how it can serve a man. Her best friend talks nonstop about how they used to F, as if that's the only aspect of their relationship, the only one worth mentioning. Not once does Noah even attempt to understand how an event like this might impact on a woman, not even through backwards foreshadowing. It's simply a turning point in a man's story. This is, I don't know what this is, WIR culture at its most toxic.
Yeah, I'm not sure what WIR means,
Me
but
neither.
I just want to jump on that. I feel like yes, this movie could be told from another point of view, Alex's point of view. But Alex is comatose after getting R-worded in the movie, so the movie would have just been a victim story, as in like this happened to her and then nothing else, right? But we want vengeance, we want blood, and I think people should celebrate the fact that in the movie, like the bad guys didn't get away with it. Like nobody who did anything to Alex got away from this unscathed and unharmed. Everybody got their just due. And yes, when it does happen to Alex, Marcus becomes homophobic, racist, goes through the city causing mayhem and stuff like that. But after all that, we sort of sympathize with that and sort of justify his homophobia and racism because he kills a R word, like he kills the person who took his girl's sanctity. So yeah, I think Gaspar Noé is making us be challenged by Alex talking about her sexual life and always being naked on camera because once again, people could see this movie and say, "Oh, she wanted it. Look at what she was wearing. Look at how she was talking. Look at how she was living, dating a guy after sleeping with his best friend or something like that." You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we should be able to look past that because if you actually see the actual assault that happens to her, you're like, "That's unacceptable. No matter what she did, that shouldn't happen to anybody." So I think making her a saint or a perfect woman or somebody who never talked about sex and that happened to her doesn't make the R word that happened to her any less violent or evil or something that we shouldn't be challenged by. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, my take is that, when we watch these movies, sort of like, overly sexualizing women and also like kind of sexualizing the R word, is that we see like the male perspective in play, and there's something to be get out of that. Like, we don't need every movie to be feminist, where, like, of course, it's good to see feminist movies, it's good to see women empowerment, but there's also, that gruesome reality of like just male domination. And yeah,
Mm.
it's a lesson to be learned.
Hmm.
And I'll read one good one and then we can end it.
All right,
Okay?
go ahead.
Edgar Cochran said, Irreversible is a project by a man with his left hand grabbing a camera and his right hand grabbing his balls. What we have here is essentially an adaptation of Dante's Divine Comedy told backwards, from the hellish opening sequences to the heaven-like ending, and put in the context of a brutal, nourishing, and nightmarish France, showing reality just as it is while aesthetically achieving something spectacular, like an Antichrist of Bellatar. And he gave this movie 96 out of 100.
Yeah, I think there can be comparisons made to Dante's Inferno, the story about a man going to hell. But I think that is a problem in Gaspar Noé's films is that he always depicts people in the LGBTQ community as people in hell, people who are demons, because that's how they were shown in Climax. That's how they're shown here and stuff like that. I want to see Gaspar Noé like do like a gay rom com. I want to see a Gaspar Noé gay rom com where he just like lets gay people be gay and just be happy and
I
not
know.
and not be savages who are like begging to be fisted and who are like R wording everything they see.
Yeah, we challenge you, Gaspar.
Gaspar, do it. We know you can. What do you think of that review?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of like different, how do you say, takes from other movies, like how they showed us during the last scenes. They showed us a poster of Space Odyssey 2001,
Mm.
and I've one of the comments I watched apparently in that movie as well. It starts very like brutal and kind of ends up being very in peace.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, that was definitely his intention, and he got inspired by a bunch of literature.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, AKDI just sent me something about WIF. It stands for Woman in Refrigerator, and it's basically like a trope or like a stereotype in movies or like a common thing that happens. Girl has something bad happen to her, so then it makes a man become a hero. And so, we don't know what happens to the girl in the refrigerator. She could be locked in there forever for as long as we care. We just care about the man becoming the hero.
Hmm.
And yeah, I can see that in the movie. I can definitely see that that's like a common theme, right?
Hmm.
I want to just talk about that though very, very briefly because we didn't talk about the fact that Marcus went through all this in the movie, but then he was about to get R-worded, but the person who saved the day was Pierre, basically the guy who she left, but he stood up and defended and finally got revenge for Alex. What did you think about Pierre sort of like being the hero when we look back at the story?
Yeah, it was interesting because overall he seemed like a shy person and sort of like introverted, not very aggressive like Marcus. And yeah, but I guess I don't know if this is what it's trying to show, but I guess it was like, when you truly like care and love about the people in your life, you can do anything to
Hmm.
get revenge of something that hurt them.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know, no matter like how peaceful you are.
Right.
I'm not sure. What did you think?
I think Pierre doing that at the end shows like a man can look past anything in a woman, right? Because one thing that men really dislike is when women leave them, especially for another man, and you know the other man, right? But Pierre was able to look past all of that and still say, "This is somebody I care about. This is somebody who I did love or still love right now, and you are not going to touch her. You are not going to just take something from her and damage her like that, and nothing bad happens to you."
Hmm.
So that's what I feel like Pierre was like a true nobleman in a way because Alex isn't his girl anymore. She's just like his ex now, but he still stood up to defend her, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I don't know if like there's something to be said about his manliness because later in the movie we see like him sort of like not manly as Marcus because he can't make his woman like come, and that's something I would say men like really associate with their manliness.
Right.
And but in the end, he ends up being the one who takes revenge, and maybe it's also saying like you can be a man without being overly sexual or something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not every man, no man is every man. Meaning, like some men have some qualities that other men don't have.
Hmm.
Marcus might be able to make Alex scream and holler, but Pierre might be more kind, loving, and caring and stuff like that. And she sort of shows that she likes that about Pierre because when we first see them interact, she like kisses him on the cheek and is inviting him to dance, and she's like, "Oh, you're so sweet, so kind." So maybe there's something that she really likes about Pierre, and
Yeah.
there's also something she likes about Marcus. But you can't have every man in one man. And so Pierre showed at the end, well, I might not be able to make her come, but I could defend her. I can stand up for her. I can be her hero. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
This was intense.
this was very intense. I feel like this was one of our best reviews, hands down. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot to talk about. Shout out to the Violator for coming in. Anybody is welcome to join these conversations. Shout out to all the people who are suggesting movies. Send more suggestions. Leave tweets. Put them in the comments on YouTube. Send them our way. We're going to be reviewing almost anything y'all send, especially if it's like this. Good stuff. Shout out to AKDI for holding it down for all the women out there, putting me in check. And I will not be getting any punani for like the next
Al-
3 days. So y'all
Also
pray
check.
for me.
Also, you can find all of the episodes in Spotify as well. Cinema Crossroads. That's the name of our podcast, and
Mhm.
yeah, you can listen to that when on your way to work as well.
Absolutely. And also, Backpack Bandits, subscribe to our travel channel, Backpack Bandits. New videos dropping almost weekly, monthly at least. So stay tuned for that. And peace.